Aloha, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. I'm your host, SprinkleBeard. Today, we are going to be covering... Oh, by the way, if you want to ever join us on Twitch, we stream every day from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. currently. In about a month, that timing might change a little bit. We'll kind of have to see how things go. Today's video, right? We want to talk about the basics. So we are going to talk about Mr. Battle Button here. What all can you do with the battle button? Why is it important? What's good about it? So without any further ado, let's hop into it. We're going to start with the super basics first of the battle button. You can go into the campaign. In the campaign is where you will start off playing the game and having your first bout of fun. In here, you can earn certain things like certain artifacts from certain sets. Most of the time, though, the sets are actually gray. I know here it's showing kind of a legendary border, but it's gray items. And it's, again, just the basic items to give you basic gear. Certain areas have more champions than others. So if you're looking for rare champions of a certain kind, maybe to help you out with the campaign or with dungeons by having an aura increase, you can come in here. Some champions are much better than others. So a heavy one that is encouraged pretty much throughout the community is getting a War Maiden because her A3 is just super amazing. On my channel, I even encourage that Berserker is quite a good green, like a spirit champion to use as a first attacker. A lot of other people, though, they end up going to campaign 10 and farming for Saurus. Saurus is just an overall AoE attacker. Really good to help you get through your campaigns of normal and hard. Great in faction wars much later in the game. The biggest advantage to the campaign, you get the most experience from the campaign. Now, this might not be true until you get to around Brutal, but you get the most experience and you can get some of the most consistent gold. So depending on what your fancy is, the community at the time of that I'm farming this video, 12.3 is the most commonly farmed thing. And the reason why is that shields have a tendency to sell much higher on average than the other items. So on 12.3 Brutal, which again is right now the community norm, a shield can go for as low as, I think it's like 6,000, but then as high as 25,000. So on average, it sells for the best. And then in this campaign, you also have a much higher chance of getting a 3-star champion as a drop. So a 3-star chicken, if you will. But for best experience, you would go to stage 6. Now, let's say you're brand new to the game, right? And you're farming for the first time. It doesn't really matter what you farm. If you get stuck on Queen Ava here and you can't beat stage 6, the same is true. Farm stage 3, because the shield will be worth the most amount of silver to help you upgrade gear, to buy more champions, to do whatever else you need in the game. Silver is a heavy used resource. But if you just need experience, you could go down to stage 6, and then any boots that you get that are the maximum star for your difficulty. So here, on normal, would be a 3-star boot. If it has speed as the main stat, you will keep that item. You do not want to sell a 3-star speed boot while you're starting off. Speed is one of the most powerful stats in the game right now. As you complete the campaign, there are rewards down here that you can collect by collecting so many stars. The way that you collect stars, tournament position, get out of the way, please. The way that you can collect stars is as you beat a level. You beat a stage, you get 1 star. If you beat a stage and none of your champions die, specifically at the final wave, you can get 2 stars. This means that you can resurrect champions and you can beat a 2-star in that manner. So it doesn't matter if your champions die if you resurrect them up on the 3rd wave and then you kill the 3rd wave with all your champions standing. That's the game's check for 2-star. The last 3-star is kind of difficult at the beginning of the game. A lot of us players, what we do is when you get 1 or 2 level 60s, we go back to normal or we go back into hard, and then we just clear all of the entire campaign start to finish, and get 3 stars. So beat the level with 2 or fewer champions with no losses. So you kind of cheese it. It's much more effective. If you try to 3-star every single level, you're going to have a very long time of playing the game and a long time of grinding like a normal level, whereas once you get to hard, you could grind hard for a lot more experience and silver. So that wraps it up for the campaign. If you have any more detailed questions, please leave them in the comments below, and we will get back to you at some point. Next would be dungeons. I am going to try to rapid fire through this because all of the dungeons are so diverse from one another that each one could be its own video. Perhaps in the future we will do a specific video on each thing. The Arcane Keep is always open, and it is where you can get your white potions. White potions are used to upgrade any champion. They must have some white potions to ascend them, specifically, Ascension. So the reason that you would want to ascend champions is certain champions like War Maiden, they will either unlock a new skill or a better version of a skill by ascending them to 3-star. Majority of rares will have a locked skill or an upgraded skill, and then this holds true for epic and then legendary champions. The boss mechanic is actually very simple. The boss is not particularly strong. He's kind of weak to everything, and as you can see, he's void, so most players don't even struggle with him. The biggest thing that I would give you for advice, he does have a caveat that he deals less damage if your party is buffed. So this is a champion that might teach you how to keep your party consistently buffed to take less damage from him. Other than that, he's pretty easy. You can use whatever champions you want on him. You might need a support to keep your champions alive or buffed. You know, do it your own free will. Next, we're going to move on to the Spirit Champion. Now, I'm not going to unlock the dungeon show, but just like this gives you white potions, the Spirit Champion gives you green potions. Green potions are used for your Spirit Champions, hence it being called the Spirit Keep. This boss is all about self-healing. So whenever it's her turn, the boss is going to restore 50% of her maximum HP. So the way to combat this, there's a bunch of ways I'm going to name. The best way is anti-healing. Just anti-healing. There's a bunch of champions in this game that either put on a 50% heal reduction or a 100% heal reduction. So certain champions like that. So Saurus, who we mentioned earlier in the video, he has an anti-heal in his kit. Now, there is a small stipulation where you might need to get the enemy, down to 40% of their HP before Saurus' skill will guarantee to land on that. And one of her minions puts a block debuff on her, so you might want to take care of her minions quickly before trying to, force her down. Other ways that you can attack her would be destroy HP. This will mean that her full HP bar gets smaller and smaller, meaning that she will heal for less and less. Eventually, it does get down to a set limit. You can't just infinitely do this, but you could put her into range where you could burst her down. Burst damage would be the second way to easily deal with her. So something like a defense down, a weaken, an attack up. You combine those three things together, you could burst her down for tons of damage. Other things like turn meter manipulation. So by that, what we mean is either put a slow on her, or there are characters that will say, reduces or takes away so much turn meter. So a perfect example is a champion called Allure. She's a epic demon of the magic variety. Things like this are all ways to combat tons of healing. You can just stop them from getting a turn, slow down the amount of turns that they get, or put anti-healing on them. The other way to deal with this, but it doesn't work on a lot of bosses, you could stun, freeze, or put to sleep a hard CC, a true fear, a fear on them would be ways to stop it, but majority of bosses in this game are immune to the hard CCs, so we don't mention them for the most part. Magic Keep. The Magic Keep is all about this sorceress buffing herself. She drops your magic potions, hence the Magic Keep. The easiest way to deal with her is champions that steal or remove buffs. So an uncommon that you can get quite early in the game is called Skinner. He's a lizard, and you can even farm him as well. He's actually quite easy to farm. But his A2 can steal buffs. Now, for all these debuffs that I'm naming, or stealing buffs, you want accuracy on your champion to guarantee that they land. But this champion will put an enormous shield on herself. Most players have a hard time getting through that, and then as you get further down, eventually she puts like a speed up, an attack buff on her, and she deals more damage for every buff on her. So to combat this, the easiest answer is steal those buffs away from her. Put a block buffs on her so that she can't get buffs in the first place. Other than that, you could do things like attacks that penetrate shields. So in the campaign, in the Barbarian one, there is a dog. I think it's called Goremask or Gortusk, but he can penetrate shields. I wouldn't recommend him as your way to get through her. Stealing buffs is the much easier way and can also make your champions a lot more powerful. But it's a really fun concept to fight against. The Force Keep, I think he's the easiest of all the keeps, even easier than Arcane. His gimmick is just defense. He gets a flat defense bonus of 4,000, and like that's really about it. I think at lower levels, he gets it's only 1,000 or 2,000. The important thing is, as long as you can out heal his damage, he's ignorable. He doesn't do a whole lot of damage. Again, though, to talk about the best ways to get through him, you would want things that ignore defense or things that lower defense. These would be the two best ways. So we mentioned War Maiden earlier. She would be a perfect way to lower his defense substantially to let all of your champions do a lot more damage to him. The other thing that we could do is things that give your team healing. So things like leeches. Things like a leech is a debuff you put on the target. As your champions attack the target, they gain life back. You could heal your champions up. You could shield them so they take less damage from him. He is just all about outlasting him, and then he's just got a big bulk of defense. So certain things like poisons and HP burn, again, might be a very strong way to get through him. Unfortunately, things like the Spirit Keep in the Magic Keep, it's not that burns and poisons are not very effective, because they either just kind of absorb it or she out heals the damage from it. So that's why we suggest it here at the Force Keep. Poison and burns would be fine onto the Arcane Keep, but they're not as critical there. Last but not least is the Void Keep. The Void Keep is all about debuffing your party. So things like shields are very strong, making sure that you have heals or maybe a resurrect at the beginning of the game, because he will do a bunch of poison debuffs onto you, and then his main skill causes all the poison damage to detonate in a single turn. So they stack up a bunch of poisons on you and then bam, hit you for a big load of damage. So things like shields are a great way to absorb poisons. Again, things like healing, where you can out heal the damage or, heal back up from the damage after he does that big bulk. Having a higher HP stat, that way, yes, the poisons will still hurt you more, but he won't kill you in most cases. This is a boss that kind of teaches you the survival tactic, right? That if you're losing champions constantly, you're going to have a much harder time fighting. Next, we'll move on to Minotaur. Minotaur is one of the most unique bosses in the game. Also, obviously, Void gives Void potions for Void champions. Minotaur is one of the most interesting things in the game. A lot of players end up not liking him because he becomes a massive grind in the mid to late game. When you first take him on, so for the record, when would I encourage people to do Minotaur? I would wait until you have 2 or 3 level 60s. I would not Minotaur before that. The reason why is Minotaur will drop these scrolls to a random party member that fought him. So if you only take 3 champions in, he'll only drop it for one of those 3, and it's a roll of the dice of which one gets it. If you have 5 party members, he could drop it to any of those 5. So these scrolls are used to increase the masteries on your champions. Masteries are like a bunch of free stats you can get for your champions if you just come and fight Minotaur a bunch. The very first line requires 5 scrolls, then 30 of the white scrolls. Then the next 2 rows take, I believe it's 60. Crap, is it? Oh gosh, this is terrible. I don't remember. Let's go check real quick. And we can level up our sparring pit in the meantime. The most professional videos here, guys. So here we'll use my Umbral Enchantress. So here's a perfect example. I actually don't know what I need to level up. So this next one is 80. I'm building her wrong. I'm building her for a very specific reason. So anybody looking at what I'm doing, don't invest too much in this for Umbral. So here it's 80 green scrolls, and then it is eventually 120 green scrolls for the next, and then eventually get down to 200 and 350 red scrolls. This is one of the most pain points for a lot of players, where it's super grindy, because Minotaur, his gimmick is he throws out a hex onto all your champions, or to some of your champions, and those champions take double damage from him while they are hexed. There are things like block debuffs, which is a great way to stop this. Things like Ally Protect or Defense Up can really help you survive his damage. And you could do these in other dungeons as well. But these are the most effective for dealing with Minotaur. And then obviously like things like revive. It doesn't matter if he deals double damage and kills it off a champion. If you can just revive the champion after the fact, champion will have lost all the debuffs then. But Minotaur's not terribly hard. When you're first starting off, he does have some higher raw damage. So it might be important for you to make sure that you can survive that raw damage. So the way the scrolls work, if the champion needs white scrolls, they will get white scrolls. If the champion is past the white scroll part, so right, you did the 5, and then 30, 30, and then 30. So you get 5 masteries. Yeah, 5 masteries unlocked on the first 2 lines. And then you go to the next lines, which would be 3 and 3. You would then get green scrolls, and then eventually red scrolls when you get further down. So if you had your main champion, like let's say Elhain, right, and she's down to red scrolls, but then you get a brand new champion, right? You get your Umbral Enchantress, and you're like, oh, she's so cool. What a great tank. And you put her in, even if you take her down here to stage 15, and if the scrolls, when you kill Minotaur, if those scrolls go to Umbral, if she has no scrolls or is still needing whites, they will give her whites until she hits the max number of whites needed. Then she will start earning greens. Unfortunately, we'll have to move on to the next run. Masteries are one of the best ways to upgrade your champions that are at level 60. I do know a few players who they tell me that once they've decided that they want to make a level 60, they will take them into Minotaur and just fully get them all their masteries, because sometimes those stats might affect how they gear the champion. That's up to you. Next, we have Ice Golem's Peak. Ice Golem, to me, I think is a really clever, fun boss. The reason you would want to fight him is, as you can see here, he drops all of these set items. So certain things like Cursed, a 75% chance of placing a 50% heal reduction. You can really customize your champions this way. Admittedly, some of these things are used and some of these things are not used ever. It just depends on what you need and what the meta is at the time, or if a set got buffed, or, you know, whatever it is you specifically need. Ice Golem's gimmick is he himself constantly tries to freeze your party, and then he has 2 minions. The one minion will reduce your healing, the other minion will reduce your defense. It is actually quite a scary combo with the 3, so things like having higher resistance is a great way to combat him. Things like stop debuffs is another great way to deal with him. And then block revive. But why block revive? The reason why is that he has a special gimmick that when his health gets down to 25%, 50%, and then 75%, as he loses health, he has a counterattack that will revive his 2 underlings. So you either want to have CC to stop his underlings, right? This is where you having things like sleeps and stuns, fears, could be very effective to keep the underlings under control while you just fight the main boss. Or if you kill them and block revive, his counterattack cannot revive them then. Or if you notice that he's at a point where he's about to counterattack, make sure not to kill off the underlings. Just fight the boss directly. When he counterattacks, then kill off his underlings. He doesn't heal them, he fully revives them, and they have to be dead. So he's a lot of fun to fight. He's also one of the least consistent bosses from what I've talked with in the community. So here you can see I'm actually only at stage 23, and then I've been struggling to have a good consistent party that can kill him consistently. I actually don't like a lot of the gear he drops. I'm not at a point where I need some of these things specifically. So I have been ignoring him and kind of sleeping on him. The next dungeon, which most people consider the easiest dungeon that we'll talk about, is Dragon's Lair. So when you first start getting your level 60s, or let's say you just need blatant gear upgrades to help you get through the campaign and you're not sure where to go, Dragon would probably be the easiest place for you to go to get some extra gear. And there's some of the most valuable gear. So like accuracy set is amazing, speed set is amazing, lifesteal is amazing. Some of these other sets can be good in very specific situations, but these 3 are at the top for a reason. They're all super amazing to help you get through the campaign or as a first set. Again, the drops are completely random. But the big dragon mechanic is he has an inhale skill. So he, at one point as you're fighting him, he will inhale and his health bar will change to purple. You have to do so much damage to this purple health bar to stop him from doing his exhale attack, which does a bunch of damage, can stun your party, also throws on a lot of poisons, stuff like that. The easiest way to deal with this, again, would be your block debuffs, have some shielding to prevent some of that damage, maybe a defense up, right? And you cast it right before he does his breath attack. You can put things like attack down on him. That's the same thing would be true for Ice Golem. Putting attack down on him is a huge way to keep your party alive. The other easy way to really deal with Dragon that I feel like is not commonly talked about is using poisons. Things like Clan Boss, we're going to talk about him later. Clan Boss is also extremely weak to poisons and HP burn. You can stack poisons, you can only have 1 HP burn on at a time. Make sure that when that purple bar is up, I feel like Dragon has higher resistance. So just stack as many poisons on as you can, and it's a very easy way to chew through his big health bar when he's doing that breath attack. Other than that, he's pretty easy. He can throw out some weakens or some poisons in between his giant breaths, but his giant breath is, can you deal enough damage? Can you burst through that? Or, the vice versa, can you survive through it? So take your pick of which option you want. We're going to skip over Spider for a second. We're going to go straight to Fire Knight. Fire Knight is actually considered the most difficult of the dungeons. Maybe Spider, depending on who you talk to. Ice Golem, again, is just the most inconsistent. He has some weird things that he does at certain times, or he counterattacks, which can really mess up the order in which you're fighting him. Stuff like that. But Fire Knight has some of the best gear in the game, from what most people say. So here we have things like crit damage, we have immunity, we have Savage, we have the stun set. Giving any character in the game a chance to stun an enemy is just amazing. And what a lot of people do is put it on their big AoE characters, or characters that only have AoE attacks. So we mentioned Saurus in this video. They would put Saurus in a stun set, and then as Saurus attacks and hits everybody, he then also has a chance to stun everybody, and it's pretty brutal. Fire Knight has one of my favorite gimmicks in a video game that I've ever seen, and I think it's incredibly clever. So Fire Knight will have this big shield that he puts up. While his shield is up, he takes 80% reduced damage and cannot be CC'd. So you cannot defense break him. You cannot put weakens on him. Cannot poison him, right? So how do you get through this big old shield that he has? His shield counts the number of times that it's hit. So champions that attack 2 or 3 times in one go. So earlier in this video, I mentioned Skinner. Saurus also has an attack that attacks twice. And then all the starters have an attack that attacks like 2 to 3, 4 times, depending on the champion. But you want to save those skills to break the shield and use them to hit his shield. So like, let's say we use Skinner. Skinner has his A1, attacks 2 times. That would knock off 2 points off of his shield. And you can see at the top his shield, at low levels, I think it's like only 5 points. And then at like level 25, it's like 12 points. But as you get higher champions, there's champions that hit for 3 to 4 times in a single skill. This is also where characters who have attacks 4 times at random, those skills are really great into things like Fire Knight. A champion that attacks 3 times are really good into Fire Knight. Once his shield is down, he's incredibly susceptible to things like turn meter burn. Again, that's reducing his turn meter, or any of the debuffs work perfectly fine on him at that point. So I mentioned the champion Allure earlier in the video. She is known as the Fire Knight Killer. If you ever get the demon Allure, you're pretty well set up to deal with Fire Knight after that point. She will help you tremendously get through him. Coldheart is another champion who has a kit that might look kind of weak at first, or like, it's okay, it's all right. And then you take her into Fire Knight and she does a massive amount of damage, controls his turn meter, stops him from ever getting a turn again. And it's kind of a cheese that's left in the game that I really appreciate. But Fire Knight's a lot of fun. His attack, he can debuff you with like slows and stuff. Again, though, I didn't attack him for a long time until I had a very designated team to just kill him. The last thing in the dungeon section, we have the Spider's Den. The Spider is super amazing because some of the most rare gear in the game, and I call it rare because rings, amulets, and banners, you really can't get anywhere else. There is a place in the campaign you can get them, but they are super weak and almost near worthless, right? So you don't really want to go there. Spider, for the first levels, so I'm going to say until about like 14 or 15, the easy strategy for Spider is AoE clear. So the way Spider works is, it doesn't matter whose turn it is, but every single turn, she will spawn more Spiderlings out to a set number. I think it's... I've actually never counted. I think it's 12. She will spawn out 12 little minions, like 2 at a time, but she'll spawn out 12 minions. And the way that is very easy to beat her is just a bunch of AoE attackers that deal, you know, good damage or great damage to clear out the babies, so that the babies never get an attack. And what the babies do when they do get a turn, they will all attack one champion and put a bunch of poisons on that champion. And because there's 12 of them, they put the 5% poison tick on you. So 12 times 5, that's 60% of your HP from all those little spiders, and some of them can poison you multiple times, or they do enough damage to you that the poison will just kill you instantly. So AoE clear is a great way. The big note I want to say is, at the moment of me recording this video, so it is July of 2021, right now stage 10, the table has a higher chance to drop 5-star items compared to any of the other levels until you get closer to about Spider 20. So, if you need 5-star items and you can do Spider 10, you might want to farm Spider 10 consistently to get those 5-star items. Rings, amulets, and banners can all be very good. The quick overview, if you're getting a ring, it has to have a flat stat. So it's either HP, attack, or defense. Most of the community does feel like that defense is the best stat, then HP, then attack, because as you get higher up in the game, survivability becomes more important to you. Obviously, certain champions you might want the attack on. That's not the point. The substats, though, can be things like HP percentage, attack percentage, and defense percentage. A ring is considered good if the main stat up top matches a substat percentage below. So if it was HP, HP percentage, so on and so forth. Amulets can be crit damage, HP, attack, or defense. So the community primarily focuses on that crit damage. Defense would be your next runner-up. And then the substats can be things like accuracy and resistance, which is what you're hoping for. And then any other substats are usually flat attack, flat defense, and HP. So with this being said, defense would be your third substat that you would really want. If you go for a main stat of defense, right? So like, let's say you have a champion that you're Duchess Lilithu, who doesn't need crit damage ever. You might go for that defense or the HP, the flat HP, to just make her bulkier. And then again, you would still want accuracy and resistance. And that also depends on the champion. Some champions won't need any accuracy, in which case then you hope for the flat attack or the flat HP. Banners, again, what is considered meta right now, at the time I'm recording this video, accuracy banners, and this is where most champions get their big accuracy boost. If it's a 6-star banner, you get as high as 96 accuracy, making hitting those accuracy goals super easy. Or resist. So Duchess Lilithu, again, she's a legendary demon. She does not require any accuracy in her kit. So a lot of people just super load her up on resistance so that she can always do her skills no matter what. For certain campaign farmers, you could go with flat attack banners. So like Elhain, for instance, would not want accuracy. And if you just use her for campaign farming, or you just want those really big attack numbers, right? Flat attack would be the way to go for somebody like Elhain. All right, so that is a quick cover of the dungeons. Faction Wars. Faction Wars are different ones are open each day, and you can only use champions of that faction. I've used up the keys in that one, so I can't show it. But here you can see, I don't know what I was doing, but I apparently used a champion. You can only use certain characters of a certain faction, and normally you just fight one specific faction. As you get higher, they get mixed together. It's a fun thing. This is considered endgame content. So for new players and free-to-play players, don't worry about it right away. As you level up champions that you need for your clan boss or for other things like that, you will eventually start leveling up level 60 champions to deal with it. Gorgorob was solo farming this for so long, for like 3-4 months, And then eventually I got Frozen Banshee, so the two of them were duoing it. And then I eventually got Mashaled and Seeker. Mashaled now kind of solos majority of my content in this game. This is a lot of fun, and you can get things like glyphs. Where you use glyphs is when you are upgrading a piece of gear. So this little green arrow that you can see on the icon, if you go to upgrade and then enchant, this is where you can use those glyphs. I would only recommend using this on gear that you think is top notch. Gear that you're probably not going to sell. Gear that you're probably not going to replace. So here on this legendary weapon I'm showing, it has accuracy, it has a triple speed roll, which is amazing. It has resistance, and on this character, I am stacking resistance, so that is a very good stat for me. And then HP percentage, I am also stacking on this champion. So therefore, this champion has a lot of the glyphs stacked in this way. That's what these +3, this +7 comes from, if you're ever wondering, where did those green stats come from? And the moment you use a glyph on an item, it will get this little green arrow to show that you've enchanted it. Again, that is more of an end game thing. I don't want you, enchanting like 3-star items. That would not feel great. And the stat bonuses you would get on a 3-star item would be so minimal. It might be enough, right? So if you have like the vampire gear you get at the start of the game, that would be worth enchanting. It's 4-star, and a lot of the stats on it are good. My son, who's playing through the game, he got really good things like main speed, boots, crit rate, gloves, and the sub rolls were like on speed and stuff. So he's set pretty well. But where you would get the glyphs for stuff like that, you get it here from the Faction Wars. Again, this is endgame content, or this is something you will get the longer you play the game. You will get more champions, and eventually one of those champions will be really good for some reason or another that you will upgrade them anyways, or you'll get to a point in the game where you don't know what to do, and that's what you will do. You'll be like, hey, I can work on some of my Faction Wars. Next, we have the beloved arena. Pardon me, let me take a quick drink. All right, so in the arena, this is where you can set up your arena defense, and you can do your arena battles. The reason that you want to battle other players is if you win, you get certain tokens. So when you're in bronze, you get bronze. When you're in silver, you get silver medals. And when you're in gold, you get gold. Where do you spend these tokens at, you might ask? Again, if you come back here to the Bastion, you can come into the Great Hall, and here's where you can upgrade certain things. Right now, there's a huge meta that accuracy is the all-powerful. Landing your debuffs or having your team consistently land their debuffs feels amazing. On my account, the reason I did not start off with magic accuracy and max that all the way up is I got some good void champions early on that required accuracy and were a lot better than my magic champions. I started off with Gallic. Gallic's defense down is kind of one of the more difficult things to pull off successfully because it's a very situational skill. And I got a champion known as Bellower who needs tons of accuracy. So that is why my Void line looks more invested into than my other lines. It's just the way that my account worked out. Accuracy right now, that's the huge meta. Resistance, you could boost up your resistance if you're like, no, I want my team to survive, and your defense percentage if you'd rather your team survive longer. These are smart things to invest in. However, they get better the closer you get to level 60. At the very beginning of the game, you will notice the accuracy increases. When you land your debuff, you will feel amazing. And when you're on normal and hard difficulties, many of your opponents do not have good resistance yet. So you will feel the biggest bang for buck by investing into accuracy. The arena, player power, like team power, can be easily manipulated. So things like resistance really boost up this number. So if you have invested in resistance and you're like, why can't I defeat teams that I have a higher player team power than? Understand this team power is very easy to manipulate. There's a lot of different calculations that go into it, but resistance will boost your team power up. It doesn't actually make your team any better, though. It just causes them to resist debuffs more often. It's not guaranteed that they'll resist, and more players will invest in more accuracy than you probably will invest in resistance. So be careful for that. If you feel like you can't take on certain teams, so here, this team power of 206, I am not in a position that I want to deal with this power of 206. They have a Seeker as a lead with a Valkyrie, which is something that worries me with my playstyle and what my team wants to do. Don't feel bad about coming up here and refreshing. And this, you get a free refresh every 15 minutes. So then you can take on much easier single target battles. The other way that you can do this is you can make your defense, just make it one character. This will keep you low at the very beginning of the game, and this will allow you to consistently farm those bronze tokens. The more that you farm, the thing I really want to stress in this video, the more tokens that you spend in the Great Hall, these bonuses carry to all content that you do in Raid Shadow Legends. So if you're doing Arena, you get these stat bonuses and these stat bonuses. If you're doing Doom Tower, you get these stat bonuses. Now, because I'm in Gold 4, that's why it's 20%. You'll start off with, like, in Bronze 1, I think it's like 2%. And then, you know, by the end of Bronze, it's like 6%. These values do add up, though. But while you're just trying to consistently farm Bronze tokens, it would be best for you to just be able to consistently farm them so you can invest in accuracy. And then as you get too much accuracy, right, you get to that point where you need 400 silver medals, that's when you might want to create a real defense and then try to climb up into silver more consistently. Also, by that time, you'll have a better understanding of the game, what champions you can fight, what champions you can't fight, so on and so forth. And then each month, you can get certain rewards from here. So here, there's 4 more days in this ranking period. So you can get some free gear in here. Some of it is higher level. So here it's showing me what all I have a chance to get. I actually didn't know you could even get books in here, so that's something really good for me to know. I should have included that in my book video. Admittedly, though, this would be one of the least consistent ways to get books. But you can get some good and interesting gear in here. I have not gotten anything good and great and usable. That's not really the point, though. 3v3, a lot of players complain that they do not like the 3v3. Again, for defense, I did the strategy I just told you about in the arena. Right now, I'm just trying to consistently farm gold bars. I don't really care about my ranking. And again, to put in perspective, guys, I'm like level 74 in this game. I still do not like 3v3s. I don't have a good, consistent 3v3 teams. I'm slowly getting there. I'm just not great at where I want to be. The big thing about 3v3s, though, they have some extra rewards in here. So in my book video, I encourage people that you can buy blue tomes here, or you could stock up on ancient shards by getting, you know, consistent wins. Obviously, there's energy, there's silvers, there's actually even some champions you can get. So right now, I am saving up for Drexthar Blood Twin. As a new player, this is probably the easiest legendary you can get. I'm not saying that it'll be easy for you to win every 3v3. There might be times where you'll lose to Bellower, but you can take on the other two. That is still worth doing. If you can win 2 out of 3 fights, I would heavily encourage you to come in here and do your 3v3s. Again, set your defense really low so it's very easy for you to get battles. Like, so as you can see, the rest of these have full champion rosters. Oh, but this right here, only 164. This is really easy for me on my account to fight. As you level up, as you get champions, you will get to this point as well that you'll recognize what teams you can take on. I don't know who this dude is. I don't see this legendary a whole lot. It doesn't matter. You know, sometimes you can brute force it. If you're really not sure if you can fight somebody with like 440, again, just press the refresh button. I don't want to do the refresh button because I actually do have a lot of champions. Again, it goes on to a 15-minute cooldown, or you can spend gems if you're in a rush or you're about to go to bed or something. I just wanted to point out that the 3v3 has its own currency and its own reward system. And eventually you can farm things like epic books in here, chickens, avatars, and then eventually even legendary and sacred shards. So there's a reason to get really good at 3v3. Admittedly, I'm just not there yet. We're almost there, guys. We're almost there. 2 more. Clan Boss. I love the Clan Boss. I do have a Clan Boss video already, so if you look in the related videos, or if you go to my channel, you can find the Clan Boss. We are going to give a quick overview. Clan Boss keys. This is the only way to fight Clan Boss. They refresh every 6 hours, and you can only have a maximum of 2. So if you have 2 out of 2, this timer will not be counting down for you and waiting for you to be set up. But the moment you use 1, so when you're at 1 of 2 or 0 of 2, this timer will start on its 6-hour cooldown, meaning you can get about 4 keys a day. And then if you want to do some shenanigans, you can use 5 keys one day, 3 keys the next day. There might be an advantage for you to do that. Clan Boss is extremely susceptible to HP burn and poisons. That is the current meta for fighting him. And then as you get higher up, using things like Skull Crusher, who makes your team unkillable. He's Poisoner, actually. There's another dude that can make your whole party immune to damage for 2 turns. So block damage, unkillables are really good. Clan Boss is more about keeping your team alive. So with defense ups, stuff like that, a lot of teams only have 1 or 2 actual attackers on them. And most people rely on poisons and HP burns because Clan Boss's health is just so massive. What you need to know as a brand new player, right, is that the damage carries over from battle to battle. So if you fight 3 battles and you do 200,000, then 300,000, and then 200,000 again, so you've done 700,000 damage, you would get this novice chest. And what can you get from this novice chest? Oh, look, you have a chance for getting blue shards or some 3-star blue gear, green gear, or even 4-star gear. You can get some potions and some cash. This would be very easy for any new player to slowly work on. And it's what I encourage as a coach, that Clan Boss has some of the most consistent daily rewards you could easily get. And because he drops things like books, so if we go down to this last one, blue shards and books, these 2 things will add the most power to an account. And then things like 4-star equipment can really help boost your account. Even 5-star. 5-star you can put on your faction war champions until you get something better. But that would be an easy way to cheese faction wars or make use of 5-star gray equipment if you don't know what else to do with it. This is by far something I encourage all players to be constantly thinking about, or people that are not in clans. This is why you want to join a clan. The other place that you can get some clan rewards is down here. You would click your clan button, you would go into members. Here it would say check in, you would click on it. And then if you're not sure what else you need to do to contribute stars, here you can click and you can see some of the rewards. This chest does not give great rewards, but it does give certain things like free energy, more gems. I've gotten things like books from this. Sometimes I've just gotten extra silver. When you're free to play or a new player, this chest is pretty valuable to you. And if you're really liking this game, completing these play for 30 minutes or play for 90 minutes is actually quite easy. And then fighting in dungeon campaigns is super easy. The hardest thing I think there is doing classic arena 6 times or 12 times eventually. So as a simple review of Clan Boss, that is what I would encourage. In order to know what Clan Boss you should be hitting, the easiest answer is you would talk to your clan leader or people in your clan and find out what they're hitting. So right now my clan is hitting Nightmare, so that's why all these other ones are at 100. It would not be good of me to be hitting hard when my clan is focused on hitting Nightmare. So make sure that you're working with your clan, because it is a team effort. It's one of the few things in the game that everybody in your clan matters. Everybody's damage on the clan boss rolls up. If you're not sure how much damage you're doing, you can look here on the side. So right now I'm called Sprinkle Ponita because somebody used a Twitch reward to change my name. But here I have used 2 keys and I've done 40 million damage. For me to get the best chest on Nightmare, I have to do over 391,000 damage. Whatever it is. I'm doing enough damage is the point that I'm trying to make. And we would say that I 2-key Nightmare. So if somebody ever asks, how many keys do you use? The concept is, how many keys do you need to use in order to get the best chest of that difficulty? So if it takes you 4 keys to do easy, that is perfectly fine. That is not a bad thing. You 4-key easy, that's fine. As you level your champions up to 6-star, as you mastery them, that will make the biggest deal in Clan Boss. And then your gear will also make huge differences on how you Clan Boss and will let you jump up. And then as you get higher as well, once you get to normal, even in normal, they give you the point where you can drop blue books, purple books, blue shards, and purple shards. This would be that quick way to make your account better as a free-to-play player or new player. Last but not least, we'll talk about Doom Tower. like Faction Wars, it is considered endgame content. You can get plenty of extra rewards in here. So there's things for your forge. There are things like silver, more energy, potions, gems, even champions. If I had a party that's strong enough to beat this, which I think I do, I'm currently working on my second champion. I recently got enough fragments from my Doom Tower to finally summon Archmage Helmet, which I'm going to be doing later on stream today. Archmage Helmet is actually immune to turn meter burn, which I did not realize. He's one of the few champions in the game that I know just fully resists it. So that's super awesome for my account. I'm looking forward to pulling him later. Doom Tower, the reason it's also considered late game content, you never know what you're going to fight. I do think some of the stairwell is static, but you might need certain champions that can either just forcefully brute force their way through it, or certain things like Venus. She puts on a lot of debuffs. You might need to bring somebody like Blind Seer who counters all the debuffs that Venus will put on your party. Again, this is kind of considered endgame content. I say kind of is, you should try Doom Tower when you can. If you can beat floor 1, you can get some rewards that might help out your account. There's a lot of free things that you can earn from the Doom Tower. And as you've seen, I've already climbed up 60, 70... Yeah, I've climbed up 80 floors already. That is 80 rewards that I've gotten for my account just to help it out. Some of these things you'll use daily. Some of these things you might not use often. It just depends. My next boss will give me a chicken of sorts. The next boss after that gives me a purple book. There's a huge reason for you to try to climb the Doom Tower consistently. And then there's even a hard mode once you complete so much. I've gotten only up to like stage 6 on hard mode. But things like this chicken are very valuable to me at where I'm at in the game. So there's a lot of different reasons. Doom Tower has really fun bosses as well. This boss can only be killed if you're using an HP burn on it. I think that's a really cool mechanic. This boss will poison the crap out of you. It can be very frustrating to deal with. And then Scarab here will constantly attack and provoke your party. So you either need things like shields to stop him from provoking you. His mechanic is he provokes characters that do not have a shield on them. Or you want champions that have really strong A1 attacks. So things like Grush, who have a leech effect. Things like Mashaled, who gain life back from their A1. Things like Fatsu, who can break their defense with their A1. There's really fun things that you can do about Scarab. I'm not going to review all the Doom Tower bosses. Unfortunately, I'm just not at a point that I can give really great advice on Doom Tower. I can help out with good team construction, though, or there are little strategies that, like one-on-one coaching, I would definitely have advice for every player. I hope this helps. This was just the battle button. Obviously, this took me about like 45 minutes to record. If you guys have any questions, feel free to put them down in the comment section below. If you want more one-on-one talking, I do stream every day on Twitch. So right now I have a few viewers that are talking, but we can't see what they are saying because when I do my YouTube videos, I make sure to cut out the chat just so I'm not too distracted by what's going on. Guys, thank you very much for watching. I hope this was helpful. Until that next time, ta-ta.